because the history of your tribe, we can talk about that in itself. I mean, we're talking about, that first that sit down, that supposedly took place, and let colonizers tell it. I'm done letting them tell that. I mean, do you want to go into any of that? You know,
Absolutely.
Let people know, because people do not, they are so colonized, and I can't stress it enough for us to decolonize. And so explain that, because people don't even, they may not know. I mean, they all hear about sitting down with, the pilgrim story that's told, but we're talking about a direct descendant of really what happened at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is like, it's funny too, because every year around this time, this is a heavy time for us, collectively as indigenous people, especially from the northeast coast, where everybody, including, and I'll say it and I don't care, our own native people, that forget that the northeast people are first contact people. We made first contact with these colonizers. You know what I mean? We held them off 400 or 500 years before they started making their way other places. So, I always tell people the history of myself personally, and it didn't start. I didn't, wasn't born with all this confidence or the knowledge of who I am and the pride of who I am. Because let's face it, the biggest racism we face as Native people is against our own people, when we're mixed with anything else but Native, whether it be white, black, Caribbean, in my case, Cape Verdean. When we're mixed, especially with black, there's that anti-blackness in the Native community that I've had to face for 35 years. And when we explain, like you said, this way, as being part of the first contact tribe, the Wampanoag Nation was flourishing, from all the way up to Maine, through Connecticut, down to Massachusetts. We had a huge, huge nation. And we also had a great leader by the name of Massasoit Osamiquin from the late 1500s to the early 1600s. And he ruled, like I said, a vast majority of these lands. There was treaty or agreements he had with other sister tribes, and there was, as we all know, there's always some kind of disagreements between tribes. But for the most part, he ruled this entire area in the northeast, just along with Massachusetts, along with the Pequot, the Narragansetts, along with the Shinnecock in Long Island, New York. So, he was the first, basically, sachem, a chief that really had an agreement or treaty, quote unquote, with the settlers, and that trust was broken. He when he passed on, he passed his role, his crown, his whatever you want to call it, his leadership to his sons, and his sons, entrusted in these settlers. His specific son, Wamsutta, had made an agreement to go sit down with these people in this English in Providence, Rhode Island, where I'm originally from, and he had gotten poisoned. And from then on, his brother Metacom took over the seat of Sachem, and that started the King's Philip War. And that's one of the most bloodiest, most murderous wars you can look up, is King Philip's War. And during that war, as I said, I'm a direct descendant of Anawan. Anawan was Massasoit Osamiquin's right-hand man and his war chief. And they the goal for the English settlers and these colonizers was to absolutely wipe us out, to take us out. And originally we weren't called the Wampanoag, we were called the Wampanoag. And in order to identify who we were, we changed our name to Wampanoag as we got, quote unquote, more friendly and thought, we was coming on common ground with these settlers. So if you look up the King's Philip War from 1675 to 1676, there was so much bloodshed on this land, and it's one of the most bloodiest wars, alongside the Narragansett swamp battle as well. And from there, we had to disperse. All our women, children, and warriors almost completely wiped out. And my descendant Anawan ended up going to Massachusetts and hiding out, mixing with other races, just trying to blend in, because there's actually a law in Providence, Rhode Island, that was abolished maybe in the late 1990s when I was, around, that stated, and this kind of derived from that war. You went in Providence, Rhode Island, you stated that you were Wampanoag, you was killed on the spot. The fact that that law was abolished in my lifetime is something that should really strike everybody listening, that this ain't over. You know what I mean? This genetic genocide, this genocide against our people started from the first little toe, baby toe that stepped on this Turtle Island from these settlers. So when I try to explain the rich history of my tribe, it's like one of those things. Do not forget where this started. We are the people that made the first contact, and we're still here. And the fact that I even know where I come from is a testament to how resilient our people